In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to add a node to the end of a doubly linked list. For our method, we are going to call this a push. So push will take in a value. And going to our pseudocode, we're going to check on an edge case. We're going to check if the length is 0, then that means that this new node that we're wanting to add to the list will be considered the head and the tail because it is the first node, right? So we're gonna write a condition here and say if this dot length is equal to 0, then in that case this is the first node to our list. So make this head the new node, but of course I didn't create this node yet. So let me go ahead above this and I'm going to create my new node up here, call it new node, and create the instance of a node and pass in that value that we passed as an argument into this node here. Alright, so now we're checking the length of 0. We're making the head the new node, and we make the tail the new node as well. Increment the length, and we're going to exit out this function, but we're going to return this. So return the list. So let's go ahead and check this out first. So I'm going to do a list dot push. I'm going to start off with the value of 2. I'm going to save that, and because this is the first node or value we're pushing into the list, this will be our first node. So this block of code should execute. If I run that, look here in the console, you see the length of 1, and the head has a node with the value of 2, which is the one we pushed, and it's also the tail, the same, because it is the first node. All right, so that's working. All right, let's go ahead and continue. So next is we're going to connect if we have anything more than 0. So now at this point, we want to start making connections. So we're going to connect the tail to the new node. All right, so in this case, let's see here. Let me draw this out for you. Currently, as it stands, you see we have this node of 2, right? So we have this 2 here. And if I wanted to push in another node, let's say, let me do it like this. Let's say I want to push in the value of 7, okay? This 7 is this new node here. So we're creating this new node, and it's 7. But currently, the list has this node over here, which is 2, and it's the head and the tail. So what we want to do at this point is we want to connect the tail of this head or of this node connected to the new node, which is this 7 here. So connect the tail of the 2 to the new node here. So the way that would look in code we would say that this dot tail dot next. So by adding that dot next, it's like we're drawing this arrow here to point to something and making it point to, the new node, this right here, which is a 7. So by me adding this right here, so it's as though I was to add this new push here with the 7, it's creating the new node with the value of 7, which is this here. And now this dot tail dot next is here to point to the new node, which is here. All right, so now we are the 2 is pointing to the 7 at this point. But now, because we are dealing with a doubly linked list now, no more the singly linked list, we could have this 7 point back to the 2, right? So we can have this like this, right? So now the 2 points to 7, but the 7 can also point back to the 2. All right, so the way we would make that look like in code is the new node. So the new node, again, remember, it's a 7 here. And to draw that arrow going back, do prev and equal. So it's like the prev and then the equal is like we created that back arrow to point backwards. And then we add, what is it that we want to point to now? It's this dot tail. Now, don't let this confuse you. I know you're thinking, well, this is the last one, so this should be tail. Well, we haven't made that adjustment yet. So as of now, the 2 is still considered a tail, okay? Because before this 7 or this last push was made, which is 7, this was a tail. We are going to be making that change later on, but as of now, know that this is considered a tail. So new node.prev is a 7 with the arrow pointing backwards and pointing to this dot tail, which is currently the 2. All right, so finally, again, the last step is to now make this 7 the new tail. And the way we're going to do that is this dot tail is now the new node. So now we're saying that the new tail is the new node, which is this here. This was what we last created here. And that is it. So now we have this going on right here. And if I was to save that, run the code. Okay, let's see here. Oh, no. Actually, I still got to increase the length. I got to increment. So I'm going to do this dot length plus plus and then return this. There we go. So I'm going to save and run the code. And look, we have a length of 2. That's correct. You see we're pushing in 2 nodes. And if I expand this here, what do we get? All right, so we see that the head is the 2, which indeed it's this right here. It's the 2. And the tail is a node with the value of 7. So that's right here. Now, if we expand the head, you'll see that the next property is pointing to a node of 7. So it's pointing to this here. And if I expand it even further, you'll see that the next is null. So once we get to the 7, the next property of 7, there's nothing after it. So it's null. Right now, the tail is the 7 here. And if I expand that tail, look at the previous. The previous has a node that's pointing backwards with a node of 2. So indeed, it is pointing, it has a previous pointing to 2. And there you go. So now we have a doubly linked list that we're able to push in a new node into our list, which has arrows pointing in both directions.